Hey everyone, welcome back to Bucky's Customs. Hey, I'm really excited about this video because it begins a series of 5 videos that I'm going to be doing on Vcarve Inlays. We've all seen plenty of videos on these. There's a ton of them out there, and there's a ton of different ways to do these. I'm not going to tell you that my way is the right way, because I know it's not going to be the right way for everyone. I'm going to tell you the way I do it that works for me and my long mill, because it's very important to know that there are a ton of variables when you make V-carve inlays or straight-sided inlays. There's a ton of variables, and the biggest variable is the project wood that you're going to use. The mill that you're using is different as well. So what we're going to try to do in this video is I'm going to start with this first one being a simple V-carve inlay. I'm going to use V-carve Pro, which I'm really excited about. I think it offers a very unique way of doing inlays. I'm going to show you how I came up with this design. I'm going to show you step by step how to edit it, how to do the tool pass, the whole 9 yards. We're going to go start to finish, and I'm going to try to get as detailed as I can so that you can take these files and go ahead and start a V-carve inlay of your own. So, what do you say we get started? Hey, once again, we're partnering with CNC Labs for another video. Go to their website, cnc.com, and check out this awesome machine called the Longmill. I'll put links in the description below. Check out their store, check out their resources page. You'll be so happy you did. Now let's get back to this week's project. Let's get started with Vcarve Pro. Let's open that up, and we'll create a new file. 99 times out of 100 I will make the job size the same as my material size, and that's what I've done here. I'm going to use the center datum position. That's what I prefer to use on V-carves, just easier for me, and I'm going to click OK. Now we're going to need an image or something to carve. And in this case, I chose an image file to make vectors out of and use that as an inlay. Let's go up here to Import Bitmap, and we're going to select the other image that I have. And now what I want to do is I want to create the vectors for this. So we're going to select it one more time until you get these grab bars. Come over here to Trace Bitmap, and we're going to select that. Now because this image is larger, it's taken a little while to load. And now you see that it disappeared. Don't panic. That just means you have to bring in some colors and bring it back on the screen. And we can go all the way to 99 if you wanted to, but I think we're gonna leave it about 55%. That should be good. And I want, because this is such a nice clean image, I think leaving it at 50-51% for the corner fit is enough. So let's preview this, and you can see that, well, let me go up here, and again the bitmap layer is there. Let's shut that off, and let's come back and look at just the vectors. And I kind of like that. I like the way it came out. It's nice and smooth. I think it's going to work out well. So let's apply this and close. Now the other thing we're going to do is select all of it, and I want to position this so that it is in the center of our job surface. So you'll notice that it moved the letters up because there's so much down at the bottom that pushed it up. I kind of like that. Most oftentimes we would just leave it the way that is right there because the word is in the center. But in this case, I think it looks nice being up in the center like that. I'm going to put, this board is going to be positioned on a couple of feet so that I'm making separately, and I think it'll be nice having it up like that in order to display. So that's the way we're going to leave that. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to save this file, and I'm going to go up here and do save as, and we're going to call this Namaste Pocket. I'm just going to overwrite what I got there. Now that is our female portion, pocket portion. It is done. The only thing I need to do now is create the toolpath. But before I do that, I need to make another copy of this and make it for the male portion. So I'm going to come up here and do a file, save as, and we're going to call this the Namaste Inlay. We're going to say OK because I'm just going over what I've already done. Now, in order for us to carve the male, we need to create some sort of a border around the actual inlay material. Now, this part of the inlay is going to be raised up off the board. So we're going to take all this stuff all the way around. We're going to take that off. In order to do that, we're going to create a rectangle, and we're going to go around the whole thing here, and we're going to hit apply, and then I'm going to close. Now if we click on that rectangle again, we can kind of bring it in a little bit. It doesn't need to be that far out. I guess we could bring it within 1/4 of an inch. Want to make sure that I don't get too close and the tool won't go around that. So we want to make sure that there's enough room for the tool. So now what we're going to do is, in order to be able to fit the male into the female portion of the inlay, we need to flip this inlay. This right here, what we want to carve for an inlay. And how we're going to do that is we're going to come over to Transform Objects over here on the left, and we're going to use the mirror tool. That opens up a dialog box and asks us specific questions. How do we want to do this? We can do it flip horizontal, flip vertical. Now, because I centered this on the datum center and the center of the project, I want to flip about the center. Not really terribly important because whatever we're using for inlay material, we could probably move this around on it and all that. So where it's critical is in your pocket. That pocket has to be perfectly in center of your cutting board. But this does not. We can just move it around in case you have a big inlay piece of material that you just want to take a portion of. You can do that. So what we're going to do is flip this horizontal, and you can see that it turned it upside down. So now when it carves all this around between the outside rectangle box that we made and our inlay, it's going to make these letters proud. So not proud, I'm glad I'm here, but just, you know what I mean. So now what we need to do is create the toolpath. So I'm going to select everything. I'm going to come up here to this little arrow and says switch to toolpath. That opens up the toolpath dialog box. And we're going to want to create a Vcarve toolpath. I'm going to want to start this male portion at, these are my numbers now, 0.18. And I'm going to start the flat depth, or have the flat depth at 0.02.
Now, the reason for that is that we need to start at 0.18 is because our finish depth for the female is going to be 0.2. So that it should, these two numbers should equal that finish depth. So, okay, we're done with that. We can use a 1/4 inch clearance. We can use an 1/8 inch clearance. You can see here I've got a 60-degree 1/4 inch fluted V-bit, and that's what we're going to use for the V-carve portion of it. And we're going to call this Namaste Inlay for a toolpath, and we're going to calculate it. And there we go. Now you could see that the 1/4 inch did a lot. These little dark areas in here, the dark blue, that's where the 1/8 inch worked. And then the rest is just our V-carve. So you can see there's 3 toolpaths, one for the 1/4, one for the 1/8, and one for the V-bit. So we can preview this if we want. We can just preview it, see what it looks like. You can see that these letters are proud of the surface, and what we would do is we would come in here with probably my bandsaw and just cut that out. So there we have it. Our male portion is done. This thing is flying along, folks. We're going to close this, and we're going to save this toolpath. So how about we do this? We'll go back to preview and we'll reset the preview. I always like doing that. Don't have to. But we'll come over here to save. And we're going to save the toolpaths. It'll select them all. Now, it gives you a couple options. Selected toolpath, visible toolpaths to one file. The only time you would use the visible toolpaths to one file is if your machine, whatever machine you're using, allows tool changes. I use the Longmill benchtop CNC from CNC Labs, and their processor is Gerbil. And Gerbil does not allow for tool changes. So I have to save these toolpaths into multiple files. So that's what we're going to do now. Just hit Save Toolpaths and go to, where's my inlays? Here it is. Cutting board, series, inlay series, Namaste project, toolpaths. Okay. So let's see here. We're going to just click Save. And that is it. That's all we need to do. We are done with this. Come over here and do a file save. And now we can do a file open. And we're going to open up our pocket. And there it is. Now we'll create the toolpath for the pocket. And how we're going to do that is we want this to be recessed in the board. So we're not going to make an outline around it. We want the V-bit to carve inside these vectors. So we're going to select these vectors. We're going to come over here and switch to toolpath. We'll do a V-carve. I'm going to use the 1/4 inch and the 1/8 inch again. 60-degree V-bit. Use the same tools because you want this to fit together. It's how you do it. And then this is going to be Namaste Pocket. Okay, we'll calculate. And there we go. Let's preview this, and you can see that it created a nice pocket. We've got our flat depth there, really nice. What did I do wrong? You know what I did wrong. Okay, we're going to go back, and we're going to click on this toolpath again. What did I do wrong? I set the depth incorrect. You're correct. I need to start the female from the 0 port, and the male needs to be the flat depth needs to be 0.2. Now we can calculate. There we go. Preview. Let's reset the preview and preview all toolpaths. Now that looks more like it. That came out pretty good, didn't it? I like that. That's going to look nice. Okay, folks, that just about does it for creating our inlays and creating our toolpaths. So let's, the only thing I got to do now is I just got to save this toolpath. We're going to save it the same exact way. And we're waiting. Maybe we have to do it again. Let's see here. Oh, save toolpaths. Okay. Namaste project toolpaths. Pocket save. We are done with this. Let's get to the mill and I hit save as by mistake there. Let's get to the mill and start making things happen. Now the first thing I'm going to do is find the center of the project piece. I'm going to use a ruler here and go corner to corner, and that will give me my center. Why do I need the center? Because I started my project from the center of my workpiece in VCarve Pro. If you remember correctly, I selected the center datum point. So I have to start the mill X and Y from the center portion. Now we can put the cutting board in the MK2 on this fancy new waste board that I made. If you want to check the video out on this, I'll leave a link in the description below. But makes it real easy to hold projects down. Now you can see me there using a piece of paper to set my Z so that I can do a surface on the top of the board. Really doesn't need to use a touch block to do that. Just need to get close and take some surface off to make it flat. We need to flatten the board before we do the inlays, otherwise we're going to have issues. Now here I'm getting ready with the V bit with the touch block, setting the top of the workspace, and we're starting the pocket with the V bit instead of a clearance path tool. And the reason I'm doing that is I thought maybe it would create less chip out or tear out. This is all new to me, doing end grain cutting boards. This kind of thing is all new, so I'm learning as I'm going here. I found that it really doesn't matter much with a 60-degree. This thing is so sharp, and I'm not really going all that deep, so I didn't have any issues. Now, seeing how I already ran the V-bit, now I have to run the 1/8 inch end mill. All we need to do with that is change the bit and set our Z, which you can see me doing here with the Auto Zero touch plate. It works really, really fast, and it is extremely accurate. If you don't have one, I would suggest you go to the CNC Labs store and pick yourself up a touch plate. This thing is really, really cool. So basically the end mill is taking everything out that the V-bit couldn't get to. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to mount this piece of cherry in the mill and carve the male part. We're going to mount our piece of cherry here with some blue tape. I'm going to use some CA glue, and we're going to mount that in, and we're going to start carving the male portion. Whenever possible, I like to use CA glue to hold my projects down. That way my clamps don't get in the way of the carving. The CA glue really does a good job. You just got to make sure that you give it time to cure, couple 3 minutes,
and then try not to take too deep of a pass at a time. You know, give the wood a chance, you know. So it takes a little bit longer. Inlays are not easy to do. I know there's a lot of people out there that claim they're so simple. Well, they kind of are to create. Some are more difficult than others, I suppose, but there's a lot of work that goes into making the cutting boards and making all the inlay material. There's a lot of work to that. It took me days to do 5 cutting boards. It took me 2 weeks, you know, to fit it in. So there's a lot of time in there. So anyway, go slow, get your carves done right. And right now we're working on the mail. And as soon as that's done, we'll be gluing this up and have our first in this 5-part series done. Notice how I do that. Squeeze your hands together, tighten your bit. If you do this with both hands, you take a risk of moving your gantry either up or down or side to side. Use one hand, try not to move your gantry, okay? I've had that happen before, and my starting point was a mess. Okay, the pocket's done. We're going to start working on the male portion. And as always, whenever we put a bit in, we have to use the touch block and set our Z height. I've already set my X and Y according to where I marked it on this piece of material. You notice the carve is off center, and that's what I was talking about before. You can put your male portion anywhere you want on your workpiece. It just needs to get carved there, and if you have a bigger piece, you can stick it up in the corner just by setting your X and Y that way. Now here I'm switching from a 1/4 inch flat to an 1/8 inch compression bit to finish the roughing. And these bits, these compression bits, really do a phenomenal job. If you are interested in trying one, I'll leave a link in the description below. You can go to the CNC Labs store and check them out. Okay, the 1/8 inch compression bit did its job, and our clearance is finished. Now we need to install a 60-degree 1/4 inch V-bit, and we'll use the touch block to set the Z, and we'll run the program. That'll take the final pass off of this male portion of the inlay. This was very nerve-wracking. But anyway, we got through it, and you know, I'm no different than anyone else out there. You all worry about it. Maybe you don't, but I'm pretty sure that most of you do as much as I do. So I'm going to get this out of here, and we'll cut it off with a bandsaw, and then we'll try the fit. Now, I didn't use any mechanical fasteners or clamps to hold this piece down, and I was pretty amazed at how easy it came off of that wasteboard. And it's a perfect carve. Now, instead of using my bandsaw, you see me over there at the miter saw, and it just worked out much better for me to do it there. So yeah, I probably will not use the bandsaw to cut the males. This kind of goes in pretty easy, and there's really not much of a space here. Once I push this down, that's all it's going to be. I'm going to get this glued in, put the clamps on it, and we will see you tomorrow. Plenty of Type-On 3, and we'll get this inlay glued up and clamped and move on to the next step. So this is what happens when you don't remember to set your Z. This was a pretty major mistake on my part, but I had already, before I had finished taking this inlay off, I had already come up with a solution, and we're going to get to that shortly. But in the meantime, finish surfacing, get it flat again, get it back on the mill so that we can start a new carve. And I had come up with an idea that went along with the Namaste theme, and fortunately I found an image that I could use, and it fit perfectly in the space. So for this final inlay, the procedures are the same as the first one. We cut the pocket, and then we cut the male, we glue it up, and we clamp it in. So for the final surfacing, I did remember to set the Z. Came off wonderfully, and I took it over to the horizontal drum sander, took as much as I could off, and now I'm doing all the hand sanding. As you can see here, there was a whole bunch of hand sanding. After I had chamfered all the edges with a handheld router, I just started hand sanding. End grain cutting boards are a tough sand, folks. Trust me when I tell you. And I did a whole bunch with the palm sander as well. I re-wet it a couple times, raised the grain, and it came out really, really good. Once I cleaned the dust off, I gave it a mineral bath.
Well, the first one is done. Not without some issues, as you saw in the video. I did something really stupid there, but you know, we've all done it, I guess. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you haven't forgotten to set your 0 for your Z. Maybe you haven't. I don't know, but I did. And you know, the important thing there for me is that I salvaged this board in a way that it would be just as good if I didn't gouge it with a 1/4 inch end mill. And I think I did. I had to go a little deeper in this one. But yeah, I think it came out okay. It goes along with the theme. I think the young lady that's getting this board is really going to be happy with it and use it for many years to come. At least I hope she will. So, all right. If you liked the video, and I'm really hoping you did, click the like button. You know, show some love there. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so that you can get notified when I post again. YouTube does that automatically for you. So I really hope you stick around for the next 4 videos. I've got 4 projects coming in this series of inlays. They're going to progressively get a little bit more difficult. Actually, I'm hoping they get a little bit easier. These end grain cutting boards are, with inlays, are not the easiest thing to do. But if you work hard at it, you'll end up with a phenomenal product and something you can be proud of. So, hey, until next time, everyone, be safe out there.